Apparently, you can't use beef stew as a password because it's not stroganoff. What's going on, YouTube? It's the weekend. We're inside the Hollow City, inside of Cold Harbor, to go over our first of two weekend vendors. And this one has our luxury furnishing items. The first one is an open and closable gate. We'd hope it'd be closable if you could open it. And I will say, when it comes to these items, you want to think of them from a couple perspectives. One, do I want them for myself? And obviously that's more subjective. If you look at this bowl and you think to yourself, I want that bowl, that's your prerogative. I can't take that from you. But the second way that we look at these items is, will they resell in the future? Now, Dwarven themes are a bit interesting because there's a lot of Dwarven themed items out there. I would say the best item here are these gates. Anything that's interactable is usually a fantastic item. It's a legendary item. It's only 30,000 gold. This is probably the best resell item that you could probably ask for. And before we jump into this next vendor here, an important note is that we are now using a numbering scale for all items. It includes decimal points. It's a 1 through 10 scale, with 5 being average. We're grading these sets on what their optimal utilization is, with 5 being average. What does 5 being average mean? Well, it means that if you threw on random gear that you found in the overland and said, hey, go tank this dungeon, go heal this dungeon, go kill somebody in PvP, a 5 is average. It pretty much just means it's a random conglomeration of things, with 6 being mediocre, 7 being good, 8 great, 9 excellent, and 10 is pretty much, it's the staple for what it's trying to do. And before we jump in, just quickly, as always, we're in our Cyrodiil Northern Gate here, but also, just quickly, like and subscribe. We try to shoot for a 5 to 10% like to view ratio if possible, so if you don't mind, hit the like button. Let's see what's in the Golden Vendor. And we start off with the Champion of the Hist, which gives you minor heroism at all time while you're in combat, generating 1 ultimate every 1.5 seconds. It also gives you an extra 1600 maximum health. It's 2, 3, and 4 are weapon and spell, max stam, and max stam. This is definitely a PvP utilization as set, where if you think to yourself, stamina's good, health is good, heroism's okay, weapon and spell damage is certainly not bad. This is probably like a 6.8 if you were to throw this into a PvP situation. It's certainly not bad, but I don't think it really breaks into that good category. I think it's definitely missing some things here. And unfortunately, you can get minor heroism just from a bunch of other places. And then if you are getting it from other places, your 5-piece is just giving you 1600 health, which is not that much. This is a bit of a unique one because it gives you armor, health, and then when you take damage, you gain a damage shield that absorbs 3,373 damage for 6 seconds. This can occur once every 6 seconds, and it scales off your maximum health. So notably, this would be higher if I had a little bit more health on me. It's tanking-esque. You can maybe look at this from PvP tanking. From overland content, being able to have a little extra beef and getting an extra damage shield that pops up every so often. I don't know what its best utilization is, but what I would say is it's probably about a 6.5 for any of those utilizations. Its best is probably solo content, just being able to stay alive, constantly giving yourself a free damage shield. But even as a solo player, you still need to do a little bit of damage, and unfortunately, this is a set that's not really giving you any sort of damage output. And a lot of times, solo overland content doesn't require a lot of junk in the trunk. You don't need this much beef. You can usually get away with different types of heavy attack builds, plus you're going to have access to companions. So I don't think this is necessary, but 6.5 is what I would throw it to. Next up, we have Netch's Touch, which gives you 400 weapon and spell damage, but to your shock damage abilities. And as a sorcerer, I can tell you this is hot garbage. Is it below a 6 on the scale? Honestly, with how many other sets give you more than 400 weapon and spell damage, this is probably like a 5.9. This is like below mediocre. I guess you would throw this as a PvP set. You might want it, or maybe a solo content set where you're a sorcerer storming around with all sorts of stormy boy abilities, and even then, 5.9. But don't worry, things are about to ramp up into the good leagues, because we have Spell Power Cure. This comes from the White Gold Tower. When you overheal yourself or an ally, you give the target Major Courage for 5 seconds, which increases their weapon or spell damage by 430. This is a fantastic set. This is good for 4-man content. It's also good for just general PvE content, whether it's trials, dungeons, etc. It's good for duo content if you're doing any sort of infinite archive. Spell power cure is also good there. It's also fantastic for ball groups because you're giving targets major courage, which is fantastic. That's 430 weapon and spell damage. What is his best utilization? It's a bit hard to say. I think 4-man content is where I would see the most utilization for spell power cure. And in there, it's probably like a 9.8. It's not a staple of that type of content. Usually this is on the healer support class. I would say it's not necessarily a staple, but it's definitely between an excellent and a staple. And in that spectrum, it's definitely towards the staple tier. So this right there, 9.8. Next up, from the Dread Cellar, we got ourselves a biggin because we have Magma Incarnate. Now, it's one piece. It gives you 2 bonuses, a bit of magicka and stamina recovery, 124 of it, which I think is the best for a 1 piece. But it's 2 piece. When you heal yourself or a group member with a single target heal ability, you grant the lowest health group member within 28 meters, which is a massive range, minor courage, and minor resolve, increasing their weapon and spell damage by 214 and armor by 2974. Daedric energy will then bounce to a nearby group member within 8 meters up to 3 times, applying minor courage and minor resolve for 10 seconds. This can occur once every 15 seconds. This is probably one of the best support sets in the game. Generally, I believe this goes on the tank mostly for 4-man content. You certainly could wear this on a healer, depending on your composition, but usually healers are not the most used things for 4-man content. Usually it's pretty much just 3 DPS and then 1 tank / support person, because usually tanks, again, are wearing sets like these that don't necessarily keep them alive. They just give buffs to your allies, because if you kill things faster, well, that's fantastic. Now, how does Magma Incarnate scale on our tier list? I think for 4-man content, this is probably like a 9.5. Solidly in the 9. I don't think it's a staple of tanking for 4-man content. I don't think it's an auto include. I think that there are times where you're going to sub this out for other things. So it's not at the 10 tier, but it's about halfway between excellent and a staple. But obviously, if you feel differently, put it in the comments below, because this is a very new tier system. So let me know what your feedback is. And finally, from Depths of Malatar, Symphony of Blades. When you heal a group member who's under 50% of their primary resource, you grant them Meridius Favor, which restores 550 magicka or stamina every 1 second for 6 seconds. This can occur every 18 seconds per target. So you can apply this to different people without being on that cooldown. However, this effect cannot target yourself. It's a big change. It didn't always used to be there from my recollection, and the resource return is based off the target's highest maximum resource. So if you have max magicka, you're going to get magicka back, which is good because you don't want to get stamina generally in PvE content. This is a great 4-person set. This is a great support set that's going to go in 4-man content. The only problem is that oftentimes you don't always need magicka or stamina recovery these days. With the rise of heavy attack builds and the builds that we use these days, Symphony of Blades is not as essential as it used to be, but that doesn't take away from how good of a set it is. I would say this is probably the perfect example of a 9.0. It's by no means a staple at all, so you can't put it close to the 10 tier, but you can still say this is an excellent set. It does exactly what it wants to do. It wants to give resources back to your teammates, and it's going to give them targeted resources based on the ones that they need. And overall, that's a 9.0 in my book. But everyone, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Tier system, very new, obviously, so it's a bit cattywampus still. I think it gives a bit more description than me go, this is an S tier set, this is an A tier set, because now there's a decimal point to kind of, even if you know something's excellent, how excellent is it? Is it just excellent, or is it excellent plus? Some of you guys had suggested maybe using a 1 through 10 scale where every essentially average was 1. I'm not necessarily opposed to that idea, but I feel like we really could just focus on the 5 through 10 scale. And the nice thing about that concept is that there are sets that are worse than average sets that could actually detriment you if you use them. So if you had 1 as average, you could find yourself in a situation where like this set is a 0, and that might throw the whole system for a loop. Looking at you, Vampire Lord. So I'd love to, if you guys have ideas and thoughts on it, let me know in the comments below. Because as always, we're doing our 3 giveaway drawings. All you need to do to enter is leave a comment in the comments below. Second thing is just make sure you subscribe / follow on Twitch and Twitter. We're on the road to 25,000 subscribers, a huge milestone. And the third thing is look for hidden word to be flashed upon the screen. If you're the first person to comment that word, you will win. The winners of last month are in the community tab, so if you want to head on over there and see who won last month. By the way, congratulations for getting the word khaki. A lot of you guys try to pre-guess the word for the month. So I guess if you could pre-guess the word, feel free to try that, because a lot of you guys tried that last month, but nobody randomly typed khaki. So if you think you can guess the word ahead of time, feel free to go ahead. But have a fantastic weekend. I'll catch you guys tomorrow. We have some exciting updates, exciting challenges on the way, and some exciting news because we were also invited into the creator program. Didn't want to talk about that in this video just because this is a long video as is, but we'll definitely break it down tomorrow and some exciting things that it's going to be given back to you guys. We'll talk about it then, but I'll see you later. Bye, guys.
Better remember to like and subscribe to Jakeclips. Or you should. I might have to pluck your eyes if you don't. Or, better yet, I'll skip rope with your entrails. Do it now. Subscribe. Ta-ta. Off with you.